victims of burglaries and domestic abuse, both of these things, waiting up to 13 hours for police to come, but they can walk around the centre of towns and rip posters down. What is wrong with our police force in this country?
God. Where do you want to start? But, you know, there are so many things wrong. We need more community police. Where I'm standing in Epsom and Newell, we've had a 24.5% cut in the number of community police officers who are walking around. Police need to be seen.
Intel on the street.
They need to be in the street, on the street. So that's one thing we need to sort out. Secondly, when it comes to this, you know, as I say, being a victim of domestic violence myself, it's appalling because the way I was treated by the police is borne out in a lot of the statistics. You've got officers who've been actually found guilty of domestic abuse themselves, and they still keep their jobs. So there's something rotten within the police force itself, the whole attitude of how it deals with women.
And you're not exactly saved, or you don't feel necessarily safe once somebody turns up 13 hours late.
Well, the 13-hour wait, I mean, if you're there, somebody's literally bashing you, and you're there, you're phoning for help, and you're waiting 13 hours.
I would never move it away from that. But I'd also like to throw into the mix the old lady of 80 who's had whatever nicked and sits in a house terrified because nobody's come round to even bother about the fact that her liberty's been taken. 13 hours, Charlie, it's disgusting, man.
They just don't turn up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And look, I mean, the government will say it's recruited 20,000 more police officers, but if they're not good enough, and to Sir Mark Rowley's credit, of absolutely no relation to me whatsoever, he has done, I think, a good job in rooting out those bad apples in the police service who shouldn't be there at all, who are not fit to wear the uniform. Well, I think he's sacked about over...
I do think you and I are going to disagree greatly. The biggest problem with the Metropolitan Police, and we actually talk about the Met too much, right?
Yeah,
they mark their own homework. It is beyond my comprehension that police officers, men and women, can keep their jobs through complete incompetence because they appear in front of an organisation that judges them that's their own friends and officers. It's ridiculous. And the police do a great job in many instances, but there are a lot of bad apples.
Well, there are a lot of bad apples, and that's why I think it is right to root those people out. But you're absolutely right. The men and women that put on that uniform, they are actually, people that, we praise the armed forces. We absolutely should do that. But the civilians, the civvies that sort of wear their that black and white uniform, who do come under a lot of cosh, the majority of them are very, very good.
Absolutely
they are there to defend our freedoms and to protect us.
But we still need more.
But we need more.
Intel from the streets, information leads to arrest.
And unfortunately, so many people are covering for each other because we did a story last week about the two black athletes who were wrongly arrested and two police officers found guilty of having lied about sniffing cannabis. There's a fundraiser that has been set up by other police officers and funded by other police officers. It's reached over £140,000
but how many more reports do we need? We've had report after report after report talking about toxic culture in the police force, and it's not being rooted out. So there has to be independence.
Toxicity or a lack of appearance. This story is about the fact it takes 13 hours for somebody who's either been domestically abused or burgled to get a response. That isn't good enough, right?
No, absolutely not good enough, and people deserve to have access to the police.
Right,